Hey everyone, it's Gunter here, and I wanted to take this opportunity to wish you all a happy 2022. I hope it's going to be a great year for you, and I hope it's going to be a little more stable, I guess, than the last 2 years we've seen. Now, most people tend to use New Year's as a time to make resolutions and set goals. I'm not going to bang on about New Year's resolutions, but I think goal setting is important, and certainly one of the things I went through just before the turn of the new year was to firstly do a bit of a review on how I progressed against my goals over the last year, and then use that and also some forward thinking about what the goals were I wanted to achieve in the coming year. And I just wanted to share that thinking with you in a bit of the process. So it might be something that you can go ahead and use for yourself when you plan out what it is you want to achieve over the next year at least. So first I went and I looked back at all I'd set out to achieve. Some of the goals I'd made, some of them I hadn't. And I think the important thing for me was to kind of understand why, in both regards, where I had made a goal or achieved a goal or where I hadn't, what the reasons for that were. Because obviously, if you know why you have achieved a goal, those are sort of behaviors and methods that you can repeat. If you haven't achieved a goal, you can go ahead and address that and say, well, I know I haven't achieved these goals because of A, B, and C. So that was quite important. I spent some time retrospectively looking at that. And then what I did was I set out my goals for the coming year and kind of grouped them into four key themes. And for each of those, then I took the retrospect that I did, which was basically a stop, start, continue. What are the things I should stop doing within that theme? What are the things I should start doing? And what are the things I should continue doing? So, very similar to something that's used in Agile software development, stop, start, continue certainly is a good tool to help you review what you've tracked against and how you're going to set goals for the coming quarter. So, the coming year. So this is very much aligned to the OKR approach, which is a methodology that was pioneered by Andy Grove, I think, back in the Intel days. And it's very popular. It's been used at Google. It's been used at other organizations. And the thinking behind OKRs is to identify a number of objectives. And then within those objectives, think about what the key results are that you need to achieve in order to make that objective. So, for example, if you say you want to increase your revenue by, I don't know, 50%, then what are the sort of key results that would dictate that? It might be you would need to up sales amounts by X amount, or you would need to increase your selling price, or whatever it is. So you set up a number of key results that then, once those are achieved, would mean you've achieved your objective. And that makes it a little easier to track progress and to manage, because what you don't want to be doing is saying, well, I might have this lofty goal of achieving 100% sales growth. But when I get to the end of the year, I've either done it or I haven't, because that's not really helpful. You want to know, what are those results that you've achieved along the way to say that you are 50, 40, 60, 80% of the way, whatever it is. So it's a very good system. There's loads you can read about it. There's a book by John Doerr. That's Doerr. I recommend it. It's really good reading. It'll delve into a little more detail than I'm doing now. Just kind of sharing the highlights of OKRs. So what should you be thinking about when you're planning out your objectives? Well, I think one of the key things is to not have too many objectives. So a handful of objectives, have no more than 3 to 5. Otherwise, it's just going to become a little bit overwhelming. And then for each of the objectives, have no more than 3 to 5 key results. Again, it's going to become too overwhelming and too much to track. I think the other important thing about OKRs is that they are time bound in a way, like most targets are, in that you want to achieve them within a certain time span. But then the other thing is you should be reviewing them on a regular basis. And the recommendation is you do those a quarterly review. And then you can use that same approach that I talked about earlier when I reviewed my annual progress in terms of, how have I tracked during this quarter? What should I stop doing? What should I start doing? And what should I continue doing? And that way it allows you to, I guess, change tack and adjust your actions to achieve goals where you might be drifting off that target, or of course where you're on that target, just to continue doing that. The other thing is then once you've done that, it helps you then when you start getting into the day-to-day things that you're doing and you're deciding whether, you're going to do this task or this activity or this initiative, You've then got a method to align or a framework to align to. So if you are choosing to do something, if it does not align to an objective or one of the key results, then you're not going to do it. It sounds obvious, but it's so easy to get distracted by stuff that is not going to contribute to those goals and those objectives. The other important thing is to write these down. There's no use having them in your head. Writing down is, I suppose, the first step towards success. So I absolutely recommend having those goals written down. And of course, writing down your progress against those. The other thing then is when you start tracking on a quarterly basis, you can do it more often if you want, but at least a quarterly basis, you can start scoring those, and you can typically create some kind of thresholds to understand how well you've progressed. And, a score of 1 obviously is you've achieved that, as in 100%. Usually a score of 0 to 0.3 says that you've done no progress. 0 to 4 to 0.6 means you've made some progress against those results, but you've not actually met that objective yet. So, you need to use a bit of your judgment to kind of understand, how your achievements might fall into that scale. But it lets you get down to something that you can put a number against. So it's not subjective in that I feel that I've set this goal or achieved this goal. So I think that's important, that the results are tangible and not just too descriptive, as in, I want to run faster, or I want to make more money, or I want to improve, my relationship with my family. Those are a little bit intangible. You need to really just sort of focus down on those and make them a little more descriptive. And that's where they become easier to measure, when you can put those sorts of numbers to them. Excuse me. Right. I'm just going to finish off then by talking about a number of mistakes that you might want to avoid when setting objectives. And that is using your objective list as a task list. It really shouldn't be. Objectives are big, meaty things, and those key results are sort of the next level down. But certainly the tasks are even more operational than that. So set your task list somewhere else. That could be project based, it could be operationally based, whatever it is. But again, on the proviso that those tasks and activities do align to an objective or a key result. Don't set too many. It's just going to be overwhelming and difficult to achieve. Make sure that they are aligned, so you don't have two objectives that are in conflict. You don't want to be saying, I really want to work harder to make lots more revenue, but I want more family time. That might be quite difficult to achieve both of those. And lastly is, don't set and forget your objectives and your key results. If you set them on the 1st of January and you come back on the 31st of December, whatever has happened, it's too late to make any adjustments. So as I mentioned earlier, think about that 3-month period quarterly, where you can do a bit of a retrospective, stop, start, continue, and adjust any actions that you need to do where you are off track, and in fact, double down on the things that are working. So don't set and forget. So that's my thinking around objectives and target setting and goals. I hope it's been helpful. I'd love to hear from you about the methodology that you use and how it's gone for you. So feel free to leave a comment or get a hold of me via any of the channels that I have available. I look forward to talking soon. Bye-bye.